um, atheists, right? Atheists are looked at as a tiny minority, when in reality, I think they're probably the majority, but they're too shit scared to say anything.
Well, it depends on the culture you're living in. I mean, obviously, in Britain, I think it's no big deal, but in the US, I think it's different. Certainly,
It's different,
well, maybe
yeah.
not in California, but in certain like the small towns in the United
Yeah, you
States.
can't.
But, mm,
Well, even people who are culturally religious, they go to church every Sunday and they read and they take the kids to Sunday school. They do all that stuff, but in their mind, they're like, this is all a bunch of fucking bullshit. But this is the way I was raised, and this is the way I'm going to keep living my life.
yeah, what will be the consequences if I actually speak my mind?
Yeah,
There's a social cost.
I, th-
I
I
mean,
think
it's people.
I think it's true. Also, think about this: in the Middle East, which is predominantly, whacked out of their skull, fucking Muslims. I think there's a sizable percentage of people living in those countries who, practice the Muslim lifestyle. They go to the mosque. They do all the things that they're supposed to do culturally, but in their mind, they're like, "This is fucking nonsense. What am I doing?"
Yeah, I mean, indeed, there's a huge social cost in these kinds of countries, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's not just social but legal as well. In some countries, like Iran, for example, and Saudi
Yeah,
Arabia, apostasy, that is disbelief in Islam, is a crime. It's actually a
right.
criminal offense.
So they keep their
So,
mouth shut.
so you go along to get along, yeah,
Right,
and
right.
and indeed, this you could say that for a lot of things. I mean, Richard Dawkins. I know I'm a harsh critic of him. I know you are as well. But he did this thing called the Clergy Project, which was quite astonishing because he found out he did it in several different countries. There's a significant proportion of ordained priests in various churches
Yeah.
are secret atheists.
I, I,
They
I,
they do
I
they do their
totally agree
job.
with that.
They
Totally
go through the
agree.
motions, yeah. But I think it's about 20% or something actually say, actually, I don't believe in God,
Yeah.
but this is my job and I do it, and it's something
Yep.
I've earned a living. I've now got a career in this. I
Hmm.
can't give it up, so I'm just going to go through the motions. And that's it's sad that that people are put into this situation. We are maybe this is just human nature. We have this herding instinct. We're a
Yeah.
social species, and inevitably we're going to get caught into dogmas and things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know from experience how if you breach these various dogmas, in there is a social cost to it, which I've had to pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's so I understand. I sympathise with the people who are in that predicament, but I think it's very sad that they're living this secret life inside themselves, which they can't express.
Right.
I think in the long run, it may be they suffer more than I have.
Yeah. It's just it's. I think that they're like they truly are the silent majority. I think most
Mm.
people. I think the people that are devout and truly believe they might be the minority.
Yeah, I mean, in Britain, certainly, I think there are only like about 6% of people in Britain regularly attend church. Now, among the Christians, that's probably you're talking about maybe because I mean, we're talking about here about the entire population. Of course, we have people of several different religions. There's about 20%, I think, who are Muslim because of immigration and
Uh
things like
huh.
that.
Yeah.
I think the Muslims themselves are more devout, so you get like
Well,
a
they kind
similar
of they
proportion.
kind of have to be.
Well, yeah, well, as we've talked about previously, radicalization, Islam is becoming more and more
Yeah.
distilled through a deliberate policy,
I
which
mean,
we talked
how
about
many
previously.
how many people do you know that were raised as a Muslim and when they got into their 20s they were like, yeah, you know what, fuck this, I'm out.
Literally no one, and I've known many Muslims. I live with two Muslims.
Yeah. So
Literally none of them,
why is that?
because I think because they are more devout than Christians
No,
generally,
no,
and it's to do with
they're people like everyone else. But why is it they're so wrapped up in this bullshit? It's because of the extreme negativity associated with leaving, because it's immersed in their culture, and they if they were to leave the religion, it's basically saying an fu to their culture and their ethnic background.
It is, yeah. It's probably something like that because I mean I
Right?
know that the only a very handful. I think there's only a handful of Christian families that would be seriously upset if their
Yeah.
child said they didn't believe. I mean,
Nobody would care.
they'd probably be unhappy about it, but they would handle it calmly.
Yeah.
They would handle it calmly. among Islam at the moment, it seems to be, there's a different kind of mindset where it is
They
very,
can't.
very doctrinaire.
They
It's
can't
very
leave.
doctrinaire indeed. Yeah,
Even
you
though
can't.
even though they might want to, they might realize it's a bunch of fucking nonsense. All of these things might be going on in their head. Man, I'm so sick of this bullshit. Why do I have to do this fucking nonsense? I just want to have a regular life. But they can't do it because the
No,
repercussions are severe.
they would literally, their family would maybe want to have nothing to do with them. I mean,
Right.
and it takes a lot to turn to, for especially if you're young, for you to like say to your parents, say something, your brother and your sister and people you love, your family, and
Yeah.
say to them, "Look, I'm sorry," to say to them something which will make them reject you and want
Yeah.
to have
It's difficult. It's very
it's more
hard.
than what it's more than what most people can do. I mean, I take my hat off to people who have Nathan Phelps. I mean, he did escape from this cult, the Westboro Baptist Church. He did escape from it. I mean, he's been interviewed by Sam Harris a
Uh
couple of
huh.
times, and he's now he's found friends and things like that. But his family within the cult want nothing to do with him. I mean, you may have heard of the Westboro Baptist
Oh
Church. They're a
yeah,
bit
yeah, yeah.
infamous, actually. They're supposedly a church, but they consist of basically simply one family.
Yeah, they're mental, dude. They're
Hmm.
fucking lunatics, and that's a cult is a different situation than a religion. Someone leaving like the Westboro Baptist Church, nobody's going to give them shit for leaving. They're going to pat them on the back and shake their hand. But when
Oh,
you,
outside, yeah,
yeah,
outside.
yeah, exactly. And it's just it's a tiny little thing. It's nothing. Whereas when you have millions of people believing in this whatever the fuck, and it's immersed in the cultural identity of who you are as a people, that's a whole different deal.